So welcome in to our school holidays VERSE Thermomix Zoom. It doesn't look like there's anyone here who doesn't have a Thermomix. You all have a model, which is fantastic. So you're not brand new to thermo cooking. I would love to know, what do you most want to get out of tonight? What do you struggle with the most in the school holidays? What sort of things are you mainly wanting to get out of this Zoom tonight? If you could pop those into the chat box for me, that would be fantastic, just to make sure that I cover off on the right things. Our idea behind this was that we hear probably the most predominant things throughout the holidays. People saying, oh my gosh, my kids are just eating everything. They are hungry every 5 minutes. I can't keep them fed. When we're at school, we just pack a lunchbox every day and that's what they have. But in school holidays, it is crazy. So what we thought is we'd run a bit of a school holiday Zoom and show you some really quick and easy things you can do. I've picked out a dinner, which is an absolute favorite. It is so quick and easy. And then just a few other snacks. And we're going to just talk through different ways that you can mix them up, how you can get kids involved and get a little bit of extra inspiration as well. So most of you guys are after new snacks, new recipes, more ideas. Fantastic. All right. So to kick it off, what I'm going to do is start with our main meal. It's going to go away and cook, and then we're going to get onto the snacks while it is going in the background. So you can all see my Thermomix here. I'm going to bring it in a little bit closer. I apologize, you won't be able to see my screen fantastically, but I will talk you through what we have on it. So I have dropped these recipes onto my meal plan for the week or for today on Cookie Do. You can see I have a range of different pictures here. I'm making tonight the creamy chicken and sun-dried tomato pasta. Have any of you guys tried this one yet? Let me know if you have. Pop it into the chat box. Now, to kick this one off, I going to work out what bowl it's in. I have prepped these ingredients already. Here we go. So we're popping in onion, garlic, parsley, basil, bit of chili. I just put a tiny sprinkle, some sun-dried tomatoes, and a bit of butter. All of that goes in. The reason I chose this is because I accidentally ordered 3 or 4 jars of sun-dried tomato in my shopping, and I'm now looking for recipes to use them up. So this is a great one. It uses 100 grams. I just typed sun-dried tomatoes into Cookie Do, and this was one of the recipes that popped up. So we're just going to chop this up on speed 7. It'll be a little bit noisy. Beautiful. And I can see there in the chat that a few of you guys have tried this one already. That is fantastic. If you have any extra tips or tweaks that you maybe did yourself, I would love to hear them and what they are. All right. Let's just chop that up beautifully. So I'm just going to scrape this all down the side. I'm, of course, going to tweak it a little bit myself. If you've ever cooked with me, then you'd probably know by now I never ever stick to a recipe. So I definitely will be changing it a little bit. All right. Scrape this all down. Whoops. All right. Now we're popping our simmering basket on, which I don't have out. I'm sorry. I'll grab mine quickly. All right. Simmering basket on. And we're going to cook this off. So this is where I'm going to swap machines quickly, just so that you guys don't have to look backwards and forwards. I'm going to move this over here. So what we're doing now is just cooking that all off. So onion, garlic, sun-dried tomato, all of that stuff is going to get cooked off for 3 minutes at 100 degrees. So if you were doing this on the stove or conventionally, this would just be that first step of, browning everything off, cooking it all off on the stove. So that's going over there. Now, while that's going, I am going to make some good old dough. Have a quickly check this chat before I keep going. What was the name of the recipe again? It is called creamy chicken and sun-dried tomato pasta. Really, really simple one. All right, now what I'm going to do is I can go up here into my recently cooked, because I make this lots. This is just the basic everyday white bread. Where is it? Here we go. Easy everyday white bread. Now I'm going to kick off with this once we get started, I'm going to talk you through why I chose this one and some of the different things that you can do with it. So 300 grams of water to begin with. And while I'm starting this one, how many of you, or have you made dough in your Thermomix yet? Have you made bread? Are you familiar with the process of using yeast and all that sort of thing? Or is this totally brand new? We do run like full bread making classes and things like that, so I'm not going to go into it in lots and lots of depth, but if you haven't made it at all, there are a few little things I can chat about. This calls for a teaspoon of caster sugar. This does help the yeast activate. I generally don't worry about it, but my yeast is getting a little bit older, and I'm finding that a little teaspoon of sugar, just raw sugar I use, is just helping it along to grow. Now, popping a lid on, and that's got 2 minutes there. So that's going to do its thing, heat that water up nice and warm. Come back over here and I'm going to just check this chat box. All right. Yeah, okay, you've all made dough. Fantastic. All right. So the reason I chose the easy everyday white bread is because you can do so much with it. So to kick off with, you can make genuinely a loaf of bread. It is a beautiful white bread, very similar to like your commercial bread. You can pop it, turn it into sandwiches and things like that. Something that is really fun is rainbow bread. Has anybody made rainbow bread? It's a bit of a trend at the moment. I had a crack at it a little while ago. Some have, some haven't. You can use this recipe. What you're doing is basically, no, that doesn't sound like you want to make that bit. I saw it and I thought it was pretty awesome. I better give it a go. I love my colors. I love things that are a bit out there. So I did a batch of this dough. I separated it into 3 balls and then I added some coloring in. So I did a red, a blue and a green, I think from memory. And then for the second proof, I rolled them all 3 colors up into a log and just stuck it in the tin. So as it proved, it had like this rainbow spiral inside. It was absolutely awesome. It cooks still quite like brown, like bread, but when you cut it open, there's just all of these colors. It is the most awesome thing ever. Now, while that just finishes off those last few seconds, I'm just going to move over here. This is my little black beauty over here cooking our main. If I go next, we're just going to add in, that smells so good already. That was just those basic ingredients. We're going to add in some chicken. This is about 500 grams of skinless chicken breast. I'm using thigh because that's what I had on hand. Now, our next Zoom, which is a little bit later in the month, we're going to be more looking at how to save time, how to save money, all of those sort of things. But I did just want to touch there on that chicken. Something like having that chicken cut up already, ready to just be thrown in, saves you so much time and hassle when it comes to doing a really quick dinner. It might sound really silly, but it really is so helpful to just be able to tip a container in as opposed to having to get out a chopping board, chopping it up, having to leave that board separate and all the rest of it, particularly if you have little kids around. It can be an absolute lifesaver. Now, the next thing in this is pouring or whipping cream. Now, I'm not much of a cream in my cooking sort of cook for a few reasons. One, cream just isn't something that I generally have on hand in the kitchen. But number 2, I'm pretty into my health. I'm pretty into cooking with whole foods and things like that. And cream is just so heavy in fat, so high in calories. So the cream in this throws the calories way up in this meal, turns it into a really, really rich meal where you're not wanting to have very big portions and a bit of a sometimes food rather than something you can just eat on a weeknight basis. So instead of cream, I'm just going to use yogurt. This is yogurt that I've made myself in my Thermomix using the TM6 fermentation mode. For those of you with TM5s, you can still do it. You have a yogurt setting or you can use a thermosaver. Again, we have whole classes on that we can help you with if you don't know. But basically swapping the cream for yogurt. There are different options. You can use coconut cream, you can use a light cream, all those different sort of things. But I love to just swap it out for yogurt. My yogurt is getting a little bit old. It's been in the fridge for over a week now. I really need to make a new batch. and this will use up 250 grams, which is fantastic. It will have, it won't be as creamy, quite as decadent, but remembering it's going to keep that fat down. All those good probiotics from the yogurt will be in there. It's a really, really good option for me. 350 grams of water. And a little bit of white wine. Now, if you don't have wine usually in your house, you can leave this out. You can sub it for something else or put in a little bit extra water. I tend to just buy a cheap bottle of wine, and that's just my cooking wine. Whenever I need some in a recipe, that is my go-to bottle. I'm otherwise not much of a wine drinker, but that one is always there in the pantry. And this one here is just our stock. Recipe calls for chicken stock. I just use my good old veggie stock that I always have in the fridge. I hope that all of you guys are making your own stock. It is absolutely something that you need to make if you put a Thermomix. Should not be going without it. And that just cooks now for 10 minutes. Now, just before I go too much further, the next step is to pop in the pasta, which we'll do. That all cooks off, and then it's literally ready to serve. So quick and easy. Literally 3 steps and you're done. All right, now, I hope that isn't too confusing. Let me know if you're confused. We're going to jump back here to our white Thermomix and our dough. And check this chat box really quickly. Oh, that's a great idea, Beck. Yeah, Greek yogurt instead of cream. It is a really, really good way to just reduce those calories. And yogurt just has so many good properties. It's a really, really good sub. Any of your recipes that have lots of cream in them are just super high in calories. To give you like a little bit of an idea, calories are something that some of you will be really familiar with and others you may not look at all. But basically, a calorie is just a unit of energy. So it's just a way that we measure how much energy is in food. For a basic pasta, something like I did a basic sun-dried tomato pasta this week, or something like that isn't a creamy base, just a regular sort of a base in a pasta, you're looking around anywhere sort of from 250 to 350 calories per serve. So it still is a really quite a low meal. As soon as you go and add something like cream in, that one there that we're making then jumps up to about 720 calories or something like that. So it's like double what you're having, and that is largely because of that cream in it. So just something to keep in mind. If you can sub something like that, it is a really, really good healthy alternative. It's something to swap. Remembering you like creams and different things can work as well. So yogurt isn't your only option. For me, it's something I always have on hand. So it works good for me. All right, now this is our dough. So just this easy everyday white bread. We're going to pop in a little bit of oil. This recipe calls for grapeseed oil. I just use olive oil. Don't keep much grapeseed oil in the house. So olive oil in this one. 600 grams of baker's flour. Now, I like to mix things up, change them around a little bit. So I'm going to use some wholemeal flour and some baker's flour. This, again, is just a little tiny switch that no one in your house will even know. You can start off with just a tiny little amount in there. But wholemeal flour is made up with a whole part of the grain. It will keep everybody fuller for a bit longer. It's got a bit more protein in it. You'll notice a big difference when you're starting to add this in. For me, I can add about half wholemeal flour into a lot of my breads now before anyone in the house even notices a difference. And it's really interesting with things like pizza nights, where we used to eat, 2 or 3 whole pizzas between us. And now when I'm subbing in a half wholemeal flour, we'll often only eat 2 pizzas. We'll have heaps left over. And that's largely down to that wholemeal flour and just how much more it fills you up when it's in the base. So it's a really, really good way to fill everyone up that little bit more. It's got some extra proteins and different nutrients in it as well. So a really, really good one to be adding in. You can also do that with anything, rye or spelt or any other grain that you want to get in. You're going to see with my muffins in a minute, they are another fantastic one for mixing up the different things different nutrients and grains that you're popping in, particularly in your kids' diets. A little bit of sea salt. You don't need much here, about 2 teaspoons or a little shake in. And some bread improver. Again, I don't like bread improver. I don't like all the additives and things that are on the packet. I think it's ridiculous. So I just use apple cider vinegar. Sounds funny, but I promise you it has almost exactly the same effect. And this one won't go off in your pantry. Your bread improver has a shelf life. It will, it'll go yuck after a while, whereas apple cider vinegar you can keep forever. All right, now I'm going to kick this off. 6 minutes this is going to knead down for. While this is going, I want to brainstorm some of your ideas. There was lots of bread makers before when we mentioned dough. What do you make with dough? What are your staples? Do you just make bread? Do you do rolls? Do you do scrolls? What do you do? I'd love to hear from you. Pop it into the chat box. For those of you who haven't done bread before, you're going to see this is so easy. And while you're popping all of those in, something that I often do are cheese and bacon rolls. So I literally do this exact batch of bread. I break it up into 12 or 16 balls, and I slit the top and pop cheese and bacon in and all over the top. What that means is as it proves up, your cheese and bacon stays in and you get lots on the top rather than it all falling off. I do cheese and bacon rolls. We do lots of scrolls. We do garlic breads and all different things like that. We do some sweet things as well, like finger buns and different things like that. So the options are endless. Bread is probably my favorite thing to take when it comes to entertaining, having people over, bring a plate somewhere, because it is so cheap. For $1.50 or something, you can be making an enormous amount. And then it's just whatever fillings you want to put in. You want to do a big herb and garlic bread or a pull apart or a sunshine bread or scrolls or anything like that, they always get devoured, especially when they're hot. They fill everybody up and they're really cheap for you to make as well. All right, what have we got? Cheese, tomato bread on cookie dough. That sounds yum. Pizza scrolls, finger buns, bread and rolls, scrolls, pizza bread, seeded bread, burger buns, rolls, cob loaves. Yes, cob loaves are the best. Cheesy rolls here, fantastic. If you think of anything else that is sort of dough based that you've made, pop it in there. I have done, and you may have seen this one on cookie dough. It is a hazelnut, I can't think of what it's called, but it is like a brioche. So it's a sweet dough. You roll it out flat, and then you, in I think 3 portions, and you put Nutella on it, or like a hazelnut spread. You layer it up, and then you cut the corners, and you twist them over. It is absolutely beautiful. Please don't make it when you are home by yourself because you will eat the whole thing. But it is delicious. It is such a good one to share around. Oh, cinnamon scrolls, yes. There are so many options of different things you can do. So really basic dough is such a good one to have under your belt and just pull it out. Start with something really basic like pizza dough. You cannot go wrong. If you do go wrong, sing out. I'm here to help you. So is your other consultant if you have someone else. But please give dough a go if you haven't yet and get a little bit more adventurous as you go along. Beautiful. All right, I've got 3 minutes left here. Now, while this is finishing, I'm just going to pull out, oopsie daisies, pull out something here. This is my go-to. Those of you who are doing lots of dough probably have one of these. This is our Thermomix. It is not something that you absolutely need to have, but it will make any dough, pastry work, anything like that so much easier. You'll see me use this in a second, but basically I just pop this down on the bench and pop my dough into this. So it means I'm not having to flour my whole surface. I can just use this. It doesn't need any flour or oil. The dough will just come off it beautifully at the end. And it is also made to insulate the heat. So this will be a bit warm because it's been in here kneading and that water was warm to begin with. So it'll help keep all that warmness in, even though it's not a super warm night. This will prove really quickly. And then you can form all your bread rolls, your scrolls, or whatever you want to do on this mat as well. So you're never having to dirty your whole bench. Everything's done in this mat. For me, because we're getting late, we're nearly at 8 o'clock, I'm not going to be making these into full bread rolls or anything tonight. I'll be taking the dough out, wrapping it in this and popping it in the fridge. In the morning, this will be risen up a little bit. So this will be a really nice tight parcel. I'll be able to pull it out, let it come back to room temperature, and then roll it into rolls or do whatever I might do with it. And we can have cheese and Vegemite scrolls for breakfast, so we can do whatever we want with it. It's something I often do when the kids are at school, because there is nothing like Vegemite and cheese scrolls in the morning, or pizza scrolls or something like that. Usually the whole tray is gone by 9 o'clock. By the time everyone has some for breakfast and they go into lunch boxes, they get eaten really, really quick. So they're a really, really good one. If you don't have one of these mats and you're wanting to get one, chat with your consultant. We do them as a host reward, so you'll get them really cheap. You can also get them free as well if you have a friend that wants to get a Thermomix. So that is the way to go about getting these. Otherwise, they are in our mix shop. All right, we'll pop that up there. I've got 50 seconds left here of this one, and then I'm going to get on to some muffins. Now, I had a couple of different muffins picked out tonight. I'm not going to make them all, so we're not here for too long. But the ones I'm going to make have some beautiful hidden veggies in it. And they have chocolate and carrot muffins. Have any of you guys made them yet? No? If you have, pop it in the chat box. They are a chocolate muffin and they have carrot in them. It sounds crazy. They use dates as a sweetener. They use a wholemeal spelt flour. They use sunflower seeds as another seed to go in that. Absolutely fantastic. And they are out of Louise Keats' collection. So Louise is a dietitian, and she does lots of really nutritious books. She's done collaborated with Cookie Doo, and she has a few collections on there. If you search Louise Keats, you'll see them. She has some gut health ones, some baby toddler ones, all sorts of different ones on there. But this one is out of her baby and toddlers one. It's a really, really good way to get some veggies into your kids. And I can see there, someone's tried those zucchini ones. They are great too. Quite similar. They're with a zucchini chocolate muffin. Again, really easy and a really good way to get those veggies into the kids. So this is my bowl after my dough. Pretty easy, pretty much all the dough's come out. That last little bit there will get cleaned with that dough mode pre-clean. I'm going to pop this bowl over to the side and move my little camera again so you guys can see a little better. All right, there we go. So here's my dough on the mat. So you can see I'm just going to roll this up. It is beautiful. I'm just always impressed by Thermomix dough. So easy, so hands-free, perfect every time. I'm just going to roll this up in the mat, and then I'll set this to the side and it can go in the fridge. And that is it, done. So really, really quick one to do in the morning, and then it's going to pop it over here. All right, and our pasta here is up to the next step. So this has just been cooking away, basically made a beautiful creamy sauce with their sun-dried tomatoes, a chicken, a yogurt, all those goodies. Now we're popping in 250 grams of penne pasta. I have got spirals here. I'm just using whatever I had in the cupboard. 250 grams. Oops, they're not going to come out of there very well. That's okay. Take my whole lid off. Now, pop our simmering basket back on the top. And that's it. Now, this has a little step down the bottom just to prolong the cooking by a few minutes if you need to, until your pasta is cooked. I'm going to extend that right out to the full 10 minutes because that pasta will need it. And then that's going to be done. So, quickly check the chat. Yes, Vicky, it is so easy to proof it overnight. I love to do it because it is just so much easier in the morning to not have to go through the full process. You don't have to worry about having a dirty bowl or anything like that. You just pull your dough straight out of the fridge. The other thing you can do is do the next step. So when you pull it cold out of the fridge, it needs to come back to sort of room temperature before it will be really nice to mold into your rolls and things like that. Particularly if it's cold in winter, that can take a little while for it to really warm back up and that yeast to activate. So what I sometimes do, particularly over the colder months, is I'll actually take that to the next step. I'll form it into the loaf tin that I want to have it in, or I actually form it into the rolls or the scrolls or whatever it might be, and then pop it in the fridge. So it's actually going to have that really slow, long prove overnight, already in the shape that it needs to be. And then when you pull it out in the morning, again, still let it come back to room temperature. It will proof a little bit more, but it just means you're not having to sort of wait that extra long time for it to really come back to life before you can do things with it. And you can pop it in the oven. I'll usually pop it in a cold oven and just turn the oven on, let it heat up when it's in there, and that will just give it that extra sort of 5 or 10 minutes of a quick proof there as well. So there are some tips to help you get really good. I'm glad that's helpful, but just to help you get really good results with your bread, because homemade bread is a little bit tricky to really get it really like the bakeries do. But once you get the hang of it, there is nothing like having that beautiful bakery bread and bread rolls and all that sort of thing, to be able to do them yourself out of your Thermomix. It is really, really cool. All right, so let's get on to our muffins. I'm going to go up here into my week. And we have chocolate carrot muffins. So to kick this one off, we have, where's my bowl? Over here. We are gonna put our oven on to 160. So these cook a little bit lower and slower than most of your muffins up at 180. Put my oven on. And we'll obviously line a muffin tray. I'm gonna use the silicone muffin molds you'll see in a minute. But line a muffin tray if you're using a normal one. And this recipe calls for 60 grams of sunflower seeds. Now, one, I don't have any in my cupboard, but number two, I like to use different things. So I have linseeds here and chia seeds. If you're not familiar with linseeds, you might see something like flax meal or flaxseed in the health food aisle. That is just milled down linseeds. So I just buy these in their whole form. And I'm just going to replace the sunflower seeds with a mix of these two. So it calls for about 60 grams of sunflower seeds. You can mix these for anything. You could use pepitas, whatever you'd like to mix this with. Any seed. And you'll see in the tips of this recipe that we've suggested sunflower seeds because they're a really, really good nut-free alternative. So a lot of your healthier recipes and things use nuts. And if you're at a school where you can't have nuts, it's a really big problem. So sunflowers are a really, really good alternative to the nuts. They have a very much similar texture and the oils come out of them. They have quite a sweet flavor. So they're a really, really good one. Now this is going to chop up for 10 seconds and it will be really noisy. Right. So these are all milled down. Yum. Scrape these down. Now you can keep on going if you need these to be milled a little bit more. Particularly when you're using different seeds, you might need an extra 10 seconds for it to really get as thin and as fine as what the sunflower seeds are. So I'm going to give this just another 10 seconds. The sunflower seeds are more like nuts, so they crush up really quickly in sort of that 10-second mark. The different seeds need just a little bit longer. Beautiful. And this is a perfect, nice, fine texture. Now I'm just going to scrape this around the lid. My lid was a little bit damp, so it stuck to it a little bit, but that's okay. Well, you'll see that in there. It's beautiful and fine. And again, if you're into healthy eating or you're wanting to change and add some extra elements into your diet, something like adding in some different seeds and different grains, even into general muffins and biscuits and things that you're doing, is a really, really good addition. Getting a good variety of all the different nutrients and different grains and seeds is so good for you, particularly for your kids. All right, now we've got 200 grams of carrot here. I just have some carrots. I picked out the ones that were getting the oldest in the fridge. I think they got partially frozen at some stage. So they're not the nicest to eat right now, but they're going to be perfect in here. 200 grams or so. I'm going to pop those in. Beautiful. And 100 grams of pitted dates. Now this calls for medjool dates. If you're in a position, oops. Can you guys still see me? Yeah, good. If you're in a position to get yourself some Majol dates, they're the bigger fresh dates. They are beautiful. They are a little bit pricey to buy. So I generally just stick to your dried dates. Depending on the textures and the flavors that you like, you can soak these. You can soak them just in a little bit of boiling water, even for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and they will plump right back up. So it's a really good alternative to using the fresh dates. And you can also swap them for prunes. So prunes have a very similar texture. They're nice and plump and a bit more moist. They have a slightly different flavor. Sometimes I'll do half prunes and half dried dates. Lots and lots of different alternatives. Or in this case, I'm just doing straight dried dates. So don't feel like you have to go and break the bank in order to eat healthy. There's always alternatives and ways to go around it. Again, a really noisy chop here, and we're just going to chop all these up. Perfect. So this is probably looking like not the nicest cupcake right now. So far, we've used seeds, dates, and carrots. But I promise you, once you put it all together and add a bit of cocoa powder in there, it is delicious. So there we have our mix, a nice wet mix for the bottom. And we're going to pop in 2 eggs. I'm just going to crack these first. These are from our chickens. So we've got 1 in there. And the second one. Beautiful. All right. Now we need 60 grams of a milk of choice. So be dairy-free here. So where you can pop in your nut milk, so your soy or your coconut. In this case, I'm just going to use a normal cow's milk. 60 grams. And 2 tablespoons of raw sugar. So this is all the sugar that you're using in these, which is I absolutely love. So many cakes and cupcakes and muffins and things, they're beautiful. They're so nice to make, but some of them have an enormous amount of sugar in them. And they really sort of, they're not such a thing that you wanted to stick in their lunchbox all the time, in your kid's lunchbox, when you know that they're so packed full of sugar and butter. So these are a really, really good alternative. And they still taste really nice. Now, 120 grams of an extra virgin olive oil. The tips of this recipe suggest that you use a light flavored oil. I have used something like a grapeseed or something like this in this recipe, or even a coconut oil. I'm just using a little bit of a light olive oil here tonight. Just again, it's a dairy-free alternative. It's just something different. Depending on the price, often you can buy some different oils cheaper than what you can get butter as well. If you're looking to save a little bit of money, it can be a really good alternative. All right, we're going to mix that all together. Oh, yeah. All right. Now, we're going to put in 170 grams of wholemeal spelt flour. I'm not going to use spelt, but I'm going to use the wholemeal flour that I had before. This is a nice stone ground wholemeal flour, but spelt is really nice in these as well. These sound really healthy, but I promise you they are so yum. The kids won't even know what's in them. All right. And then we have raw cacao powder. If you have cacao, it is great to pop in. I'm just going to use a normal standard cocoa. Cacao is a raw form of cocoa powder. It has got some other nutrients and health benefits in it, but it does also have a different flavor, and it's generally quite a bit more pricey than cocoa. So for me and for this, I'm just going to go with a normal cocoa powder. All right, 20 grams, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, now this is a baking powder that I've made and milled everything down in the thermi. There's about 2 teaspoons there, so I'm going to tip them in, and 70 grams of dark chocolate chips. If you're trying to wean your kids off sweet things, you might want to add in a milk choc or a more sugary chocolate chip here if you need to. I have some nice dark chocolate chip buttons here, and they're going to be perfect for me. 70 grams there. Pop our lid on. We're going to mix this all together. All right. Now that's mixing together, and my pasta over here is finished. So I'm just going to grab my thermo server, and as those muffins mix up, I'll just pull this over here so you can see. Oops. Our 3-step dinner is done. It is so easy. If you have got kids that you're wanting to get into the kitchen, or that are needing to be a bit amused over the holidays, making something like this pasta could be a really, really good one. They need very, very basic cooking skills. They don't really need to know how to do anything in the kitchen, but they will, I'm sure, love being involved and being able to help make this. All right, I'm going to grab another spatula out. I'm going to tip this into here. Yum. And that is our pasta done. Creamy chicken and sun-dried tomato. Smells delicious. You can garnish that with some extra basil, a little sprinkle of cheese. I go back to the very start. That feeds 4. So you go family of 4, there you go. If you've got a family of 6 or more, you might want to make a little bread or something like that to go with it, or maybe a side salad. Options are endless. Now I'm going to pop this just up here out of the road for a second. I'm going to pour these cupcakes out. So this recipe here just says to fold through anything that hasn't quite mixed in. So you'll see there's a little bit up the sides there, to give it a little scrape down and bring you in a little closer so you can see a little bit better. You can see there. Now we're going to put this into our 12 cupcake liners. So this is a silicone baking tray. If you have kids, or if you're into your baking, these silicone trays are really, really worth investing in. They're all non-stick. They're all oven-proof. Really, really easy for all of your baking and things like that. They only really need a wipe out to clean them. So they're really, really environmentally friendly, and you're not having to pull the wrappers off. I have little kids, and cupcake liners and muffin lined wrappers always just end up all over the house. So these are a really, really good alternative. I also have the silicone loaf pan. I have the mini muffin molds. So there's lots of different ones that you can get on the mix shop. Thermomix are pretty passionate about being environmentally friendly and sustainable. So these are just one range that we have brought in to sort of support all of that. All right. Now, there is another muffin that I was going to do, but we're going to run out of time, and that's okay. And they are called coffee and date muffins from Cookie Doo. They are honestly one of the quickest and easiest muffins that you will make. You literally throw everything in, give it a quick mix, and pop it into a muffin pan. I often swap out the coffee for something like an apple or a pear, and they become coffee and date muffins, or sorry, date and apple muffins, or date and pear muffins. It works really, really well, and it means it's a little bit more friendly for the kids. You can, of course, use decaf or something if you really want the coffee flavour. But they are so, so, so super easy. And if you're looking to do a little bit of meal prep, a bit of planning before school goes back, then when you're making something like this, you can always just keep a few and pop them into the freezer. It might not be the whole tray, it might be half the tray, or even just 3 or 4 muffins. And it might just mean that one day or 2 days a week, you can just pull something out of the freezer and pop it into a lunchbox. That little bit of prep that you can do now in the holidays, it will just make those mornings before school that little bit easier. But our next session, a bit later in October, we'll be really looking at ways to save time, ways to save money, a little bit of meal planning and things like that. So if that is something that you are interested in, come along to that one there. So this is all my muffins in there. They will even out enough in the oven. They go in now for about 30 minutes, and then they are done. and they're absolutely delicious. I'll pop a photo up on my Facebook when I am done of those ones, but that is the basics of the carrot and chocolate muffins. But the chocolate and zucchini mini loaves are also on Cookie Doo. They're a great one with hidden veggies. And go and check out Louise Keats' collections on Cookie Doo if you're interested in those. There's some really, really good ones as well. Beautiful. Well, this pretty much wraps up our Zoom for tonight. I hope there's been a few inspiring recipes that you have seen. Like I said, we have one a little bit later in the month, so please come back along to that one. If you have got a friend, if you've thought of anyone throughout tonight who would really benefit from any of these recipes, from the way of cooking like this, we would love for you to pass them on to us, pass them on to your consultants and let us know, or come along to one of our events, invite them to a Zoom so they can see the Thermomix as well. We have some awesome deals going at the moment with the TM6. We have an interest-free offer there of 40 months, which means it's sort of more affordable now than it ever has been to get one. We also have the Earn For program, so it's a really good chance for people to jump on and earn themselves a Thermomix that way. So if you do know someone who would benefit from having one in their kitchen, please reach out to your consultant, have a chat, and work out the best way to show them the Thermomix. They can see the benefits for themselves, because it really can be life-changing to have a Thermomix in your kitchen. Sometimes you got to see it from a different angle before you can see the benefits of it as well. So if you are that friend, please give them a nudge on the shoulder, get them along to a demo, or work out the best way for them to see it so they can see that for themselves. We turn our recording off.